Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. Today we have a watch that exhausts superlatives, and this one actually comes straight from the manufacturer, Ulysse Nardin, which has provided me with prototype number 4. This is a pre-production piece, so let me preface this entire review by saying what you see here is good, what you wear will be even better. The Ulysse Nardin Freak S Nomad, the follow-up to 2022's Freak S. This one is a 99-piece limited edition, whereas the original was rose gold. This one features a titanium case that has been laced with a combination of carbon fiber and gold, and you can see the carbon fiber and the gold mixed into a composite and held with resin such that no two pieces are exactly alike. Now, I'm not really on board with colored gold, so the original Freak S for me was an objet d'art, but not necessarily something I could see myself wearing, whereas this in titanium and carbon is right up my alley. A 99-piece limited edition for the 2024 model year, the Freak S Nomad substitutes the original's rose gold with titanium and carbon, and then a venturine dial with engine-turned sand-colored guilloche. So you can see that the dial and the base plate of the movement are essentially one and the same here. Now, since the original Freak of 2001, the models have stood for innovation, and the innovation here is a double oscillator linked by a differential, essentially a Philippe Dufour duality if Philippe Dufour had been a cyborg. Of course, that original Freak of 2001 introduced a lot of new concepts. We had a dial side carousel, essentially a tourbillon that can be set manually as a hand in the time-telling system, and it also introduced the pervasive use of silicon in a watch, and to this day Ulysse Nardin uses it, but now able to make it itself via its subsidiary Sigitech, UN probably the smallest company in the business that can make its own silicon. Another element of the original Freak, the lack of a crown. It was wound with the case back and set with the bezel, and this one is as well. However, this one introduces the grinder winding system that was first introduced on the Freak Next, something of a concept watch. Now in regular production, it's said to be the most efficient and sensitive automatic winding system in the business. Let's talk about fit, though, because fit comes first. It's still a big watch. Every Freak has been. This one's 45 millimeters in diameter, a girthy 17 millimeters thick, and then from lug tip to lug tip, 53.5 millimeters with a 23 millimeter spacing between the lugs. So you can see on my wrist, the watch wears large. There's no getting around that. A Freak isn't the kind of watch you wear to disappear under a cuff. Boisterous, loud, extroverted, that's always sort of been the sensibility of the watch, though this one strikes a nice balance with muted tones of carbon fiber and titanium. So it's got a relatively sporting, one might even say somewhat utilitarian exterior aesthetic and an artisanal interior aesthetic. My wrist is 16 centimeters circumference, and frankly, I probably wouldn't recommend wearing this watch on a wrist any smaller than mine, and you're going to want to have an oval-shaped wrist to get the most out of it. As you can see, not going to fit under a cuff. The watch does come with a lovely strap, and you can see that we've got a combination of a textile on the top, a little bit of a contrasting binding stitch. We've also got a monotone stitch, a sheer cut side, and then on the back, you'll note that it is rubberized to reduce the impact of the sweat, heat, oil, and grit of the skin against the straps. This is going to be a long-wearing strap. If you look carefully internally, you can see there is natural fiber in there. Taking a quick look at the buckle, it's a double deployant. It's made of titanium like the case. You can see that it features a double folding action and a trigger release, so you have to press both these triggers to pop it open. It's going to stay secure. There's also a little bit of hard angular faceting on the buckle that matches the design of the case. So that is your deployant clasp right there. Rolling over the case. The carbon fiber is a cladding on the titanium core, so the case is properly made of titanium. And then we have these two rails, if you will. They're made of carbon fiber composite, and the carbon fiber gives it most of its bulk. The resin gives it its ability to hold its shape, and then the gold gives it a subtle beauty. It's the kind of thing that pops upon close examination but doesn't declare itself across a room. Because of the way the gold sits inside the composite matrix, no two of these will be exactly alike. We have a dramatically boxed and cambered sapphire here, and then we've got the Freak bezel lock that was introduced on the Freak 2, the 28.8 back in 2005. The idea here is that if you are going to move the baguette movement as the minute hand, you don't necessarily want this to be displaced, and anything could displace the bezel in angular fashion. So when you lift this lock, it allows you to set the watch, and when you lower it, then it's locked into place. So what you're looking at right there is about 8:29. You've got your hour hand right here. You've got your minute hand here. It is one and the same as the carousel. We'll do a loom shot because this watch does have a little bit of loom, so no shortage of that. As you can see, it's actually quite well loomed. You're not necessarily going to be able to read individual minutes, but you're going to have a good general sense of what time it is. The watch is 30 meters water resistant, which might not sound like a lot, but remember, before the Freak Cruiser of 2013, there were no water-resistant Freaks, so 30 is a step forward by the traditions of this model line. Taking a look at the dial, you can see that the dial base is real reductive engine-turned guilloche. So this is not the stamped kind. This is done by a guillocheur. This guillochage is executed in a lovely radial pattern. You can see that depending on the angle, the facets and the light do wonderful things to create a lot of visual dynamism. We have an elevated track for reading the cantilevered hour indices, which you can see are faceted, satinated, and polished. And then the primary point of interest is going to be this double balance system. These wheels are offset 20 degrees from the horizontal. The wheels are UN's own. They're made of silicon. They have white gold masses. They're free sprung for durability and shock resistance, as well as precise setting. We have silicon anti-magnetic hairsprings. Then we have two very lightly lubricated diamond sill escapements. So we have silicon escapements, that is the lever and the wheel, for both sides with a very small amount of lubricant, and they feature a synthetic diamond coating for ultra-low friction. And the reduction in lubricants means these perform better in between services. They don't age the way conventional heavily lubricated escapements do. They both beat away at 18,000 vibrations per hour, and the angling of them directly across and opposed ensures that one is likely to cancel out the error of the other when their individual rates are averaged through a differential at the center. And then you can see the differential averages out their variation, and then through a bevel gear, you could see that it drives the carousel around the toothed outer circumference of the dial. So that's how that works. The differential is geared directly to the toothed outer circumference of the dial. You can see that it is beautifully decorated, all manner of satination, faceting, polish, small surfaces like screw heads, mirror finished. You can see the differential itself is a work of art, and the application of PVD blacked the structure of the carousel, giving it a stealthy, technical, almost tactical look. It's like wearing an F-117 stealth fighter on your wrist. And of course, part of the fun of a watch like this is frankly just playing with it. It's a lot of fun. You can see that the hour hand right here moves a little bit slower, and that baguette style minute hand is a lot of fun to displace. Turn it all over. Now we've got the grinder. The grinder is a sort of hybrid of a peripheral rotor and a central rotor, but its hallmark is that it's a pawl-based system that uses a system of intricate springs and pawls to record almost any minute amount of motion and convert it into energy. Due to the presence of two energy-intensive regulators, this has a shorter power reserve than a conventional Freak, so 72 hours, but you got to remember how much energy is being used by the oscillators. It does feature 33 pivot jewels, and you're going to appreciate that the grinder might be the most innovative thing to happen in the world of automatic winders since the 1950s introduction of the original pawl-based winding systems, the IWC Peloton and the Seiko Magic Lever. So this is a real step forward. This is caliber 251. In case you haven't noticed, on Ulysse Nardin watches, the first three numerals of the reference number will be the caliber number, and that's exactly what we've got right here. Although it's an automatic, you can still wind it using the case back, which is a wonderful little piece of theater and frankly gratifying and fun to do. Taking a quick look in between the lugs, you can see although the watch is extremely proprietary, the strap is not. So you can put any 23mm strap in here in case you want to mix and match and change the aesthetic. I love the original Freak S, but gold was not for me, or at least overt rose gold. Now I've got titanium carbon and only the slightest traces of gold inherent. Lots to love, and if you can afford the price of $148,300, I can't think of many more animated and animating watches. This one will make you smile every day. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for additional information.